In this video, we'll talk about the Fury Herb ingredient in Pokemon Sleep and go over every Pokemon that has this ingredient as an option, and then overall come to a conclusion on which Pokemon is the best Fury Herb Pokemon. So, the interesting thing with the Fury Herb is the Dragonite was introduced a bit of time after launch, and for the most part, Gengar was the only real option for a triple ingredient herb Pokemon. The thing with Gengar though is even from the start of the game, the double mushroom has been the preferred ingredient list just because of how valuable the mushroom is and also how rare it is. Like Gengar is the only Pokemon that does the double mushrooms, and you can get a fair bit of supplemental herbs just from various Pokemon. And so even the berry specialists and the skill specialists for this ingredient is going to be quite nice actually. So overall, now that Gengar has the double mushroom spot and Dragonite as a Pokemon, then for the most part, Dragonite is going to be your main herb Pokemon. The one drawback with having the Dragonite as the herb main farmer is the Dratini is available first at Lapis Lakeside, so that is quite late in the game, and then at that point you would have to really look for a really good Dratini as well, because Dragonite is one of those pseudo legendary Pokemon that have a very increased frustrating EXP curve, so you're going to have to put a lot of resources into the Dragonite to even get to evolve it and all that stuff. So Dragonite definitely the best triple ingredient Fury herb option, but it does come in a little bit late. So it could be the case that when we discuss future cooking videos and all that stuff, that you may want to hold on to some of these dishes for later, just because the 2 herb here from the Gengar is going to do quite a bit, but not sufficient to like cook a single dish every single meal, every single day, and all that stuff. So I think in the start here, we'll just cover all the Pokemon that are ingredient specialists that have this as an option, and then we can get into the details a little bit about the Dragonite, piece together some sub skills and some natures, and then at the end we can do the usual rapid fire berry specialist and skill specialists that also find the herb, and there are a couple skill specialists that will surprise you. The Dragonite is the number 1 Pokemon, then we have the Gengar, which is a good supplemental Pokemon, then we have the Charizard, and these are the 3 only ingredient specialists that do carry the herb. And on the Charizard, you actually don't want the herb. You either want the triple sausage or the double ginger. And at that point, there is not really much more else to talk about on the Charizard, so we're gonna hop right into the Dragonite again. Dragonite is one of the more interesting Pokemon in the game. It is incredibly strong, definitely S tier, and you even have a couple options here in terms of the ingredient lists. For the most part, you want to keep the Greengrass Corn for Beware, because it does that job as a mono corn Pokemon, and it does that job really well. So at that point, why not aim for the triple herb on the Dragonite? Dragonite is super fast. It's got decent inventory, especially after evolving it all the way from Dratini, which means you'll have 30 here with no sub skills supporting it. 26% on the ingredient rate is super high, so to an extent you don't really have to be too worried about the nature and the sub skills. And it being the Yachi berry makes this an interesting Pokemon for the consideration of berry finding, just like the Tyranitar, which coincidentally is also a pseudo-legendary. So if you have a look at the Warming Ginger video, you'll have a similar analysis here as with the Tyranitar. So for the most part, you do want to look for the berry finding and potentially that huge inventory. At that point, if you have the triple herb as the ingredient list, you can be very happy with the Dragonite. This is the Hopes and Dreams simulator, so we're just gonna keep on building here and make some sort of odd scenario here. Maybe we go for the rash nature. It is the same situation too with the main skill, where the main skill here is pretty nice. You can run a healer next to it, and then the Dragonite will just live at 150% all day, every day, and you can take it on and off your team without really having to consider the energy status on it. So the dream scenario, in my opinion, would be something like this. You find triple herb, you want the ingredient finding up nature, you want the ingredient finding sub skill, and you also want the berry finding as well as some inventory. The speed is not going to be a big deal on the Dragonite, but for example, if you go for the ultra fiery herb zoom in, then maybe you can go for helping speed or maybe the helping bonus here, something like this. And if you're not having the berry finding, then you could double up on the speed as well and not really consider the inventory much. I kind of like having the mono ingredients with a bit of inventory, so maybe that comes in at level 75, and at that point you have an insane Dragonite where all of these 4 sub skills are really stacking on top of each other, and you have the high berry value despite not the berry finding S, and overall it's just a good setup. We can also add just the ingredients here for the reference. Then we have the corn and we have the oil. Oil you do not want on the Dragonite. That is a big letdown every time you see it, because it either means that you're going to be double herb and then oil, or like a mixed set, which is awful on the Dragonite. You either want to go for the double here and then potentially the corn at the end, but for the most part, in my opinion, it is much more important to find the triple ingredient on the Dragonite than having all these dream scenario sub skills. So we can cycle back a little bit. For me, when I go hunting for the Dragonite, which I haven't done yet, I'm gonna look for something like this, and then I am perfectly happy. Some inventory, BFS, good ingredient list, call it a day. So that's the Dragonite. The other option here is the Gengar. My Gengar has the mushroom herb pattern, and so for the most part I don't really need the Dragonite all that much, which is why I don't really have a big rush to go get it. My Gengar is a really, really good one just because of the sub skills, which is why I kind of settled on the less optimal ingredient list. If I'm not mistaken, it's got the mild and it's got like helping speed I think it's just got all of these very great sub skills. I do think it potentially like this. I can't remember exactly, but overall, just the sheer number of incredible sub skills, in addition to the fact that I caught it at Ghastly, so I have a big inventory. It's just a really good Pokemon. So despite the fact that the drop here on the herb is just 2, I find that overall, for the most part, I am doing very well with my herb collection because of the incredible speed and my luck here with ingredient finding M, ingredient finder S, and then the ingredient finding nature. And then I think it is time for the rapid fire comparison here of just the remaining Pokemon that do find the herbs. An honorable mention here is Ampharos. Ampharos put in a lot of work for me during the Raikou event. It is triple herb and it is very strong that way. If you have an Ampharos, potentially also the double eggs can be quite nice, but you want on the Ampharos, which is an S tier Pokemon, to get as much out of this skill as you can. So the ingredient list is just a nice to have. And we can start from the top here and go down to the bottom. So we have Arbok. Gets it late at level 60. Berry Specialist, shouldn't care too much about it. Arcanine is a decent potential here for the triple herb, especially with that extra helpful combo, as you probably don't care too much about the berries. So yeah, Arcanine, not a Pokemon that I value or rank very highly, but overall, another Fiery Herb Pokemon. Then we have Magnezone. This one is interesting just because it also has this lacking final spot, which means you should be much more likely to find either a triple oil or double herb. And then at that point, there are not too many Pokemon left. We can see that the Typhlosion is an option, and the Houndoom. Houndoom has the potential for the triple herb. Typhlosion has the double herb coming in. And then the very last Pokemon here is actually Raikou. Raikou has the potential for a double herb, and it is actually quite likely that you'll end up with a double herb one. But then again, all these Pokemon are mostly valued for their specialty, and so keep them in that category, and mostly look for that Dragonite once you need the herbs. So overall, hope this video was interesting to you and that it was helpful in terms of figuring out the herb. It is a little bit complicated just because the Dragonite comes in late, and the Gengar is preferentially a mushroom ingredient farmer. So let me know in the comments if you have any input on this video, and leave a like if you did. The bubble went the other way, so seems to be random. Thank you for watching.